Lorraine Connors' life was a careful masterpiece of concealment, built around the rigid control of her body and the thick, camouflaging makeup hiding the jagged 4-inch scar on her collarbone. She worked at the Sapphire Room in downtown Chicago, an environment where anonymity was a shield. This shield shattered the moment she was directed to the corner table occupied by Ricardo Zebrowski, the magnetic and lethal boss of the Zebrowski Crimine. Ricardo sat with the unsettling stillness of a predator, flanked by David Alvarez. As Lorraine approached, a sudden tension in her uniform pulled the high collar away, exposing a flicker of the distinctive pale scar. Ricardo's composure broke, not with rage, but with a paralyzing recognition that seemed decades in the making. His eyes fixed on the mark, and his voice, low and absolute, brought the entire bustling establishment to a halt. "I need the floor cleared. Now. Everyone out, except for her." Lorraine knew, with chilling certainty, that the scar had finally betrayed her to the man who commanded her fate. Every morning, Lorraine Connors stood before her bathroom mirror, applying theatrical-grade concealer with surgical precision. The jagged scar running from her collarbone upward required primer, 3 foundation shades, and expensive setting powder. She didn't remember how she got it. Her memories began at age 4 in a Gary, Indiana foster home, with no explanation for the mark that made other children stare. The Sapphire Room's high-collared uniform was a blessing. She'd reinforced the stitching herself, ensuring the fabric never gaped. In 3 years, no one had seen the scar. That was survival. Questions about scars led to questions about origins, and she had no answers that didn't sound evasive or tragic. So she became a ghost, moving through the elegant dining room with practiced efficiency, refilling wine glasses while remaining utterly unmemorable. Tonight, the floor manager intercepted her with unusual urgency. "VIP's section, table 12. They requested our most discreet server." His eyes held a warning she couldn't interpret. VIP meant bigger tips, but higher stakes. Clientele who valued privacy above all else, the kind who noticed everything. Ricardo Zebrowski didn't enter rooms, he claimed them. Lorraine watched from the service station as he moved through the Sapphire Room with 4 men forming a protective perimeter. His charcoal suit was tailored to perfection, and his face carried hard-earned authority that came from making impossible decisions and living with the consequences. David Alvarez, his consigliere, walked half a step behind, silver hair and calculating eyes scanning for threats. The other men positioned themselves strategically, their bulk marking them as protection rather than companions. The restaurant's ambient noise didn't stop, but it changed. Quality, becoming more careful. Other diners recognized power, even if they couldn't name it. Lorraine gathered menus and approached, repeating her mental checklist. Head bowed, movements efficient, voice neutral. Invisible, forgettable. She made it through the greeting, wine selection, and appetizer order. Ricardo's voice was surprisingly soft as he made his choices. He didn't look at her face. She was the help, part of the scenery. She began to relax, thinking this would be like any other difficult table. Then she reached across to pour water, and everything changed. The reinforced stitching gave way without warning. The collar pulled sideways as she stretched, and for 3 heartbeats, the top edge of her scar was visible in the candlelight, a pale, distinctive line with the particular texture of old trauma. Ricardo's reaction was visceral. His hand froze mid-motion. Color drained from his face as if someone had opened a valve. His eyes locked onto the scar with an intensity that felt physical. David noticed and tensed, hand moving instinctively toward his jacket. Lorraine jerked the collar back, but too late. Ricardo had seen, and he recognized it. "The mark of the Citadel," Ricardo whispered. The words meant nothing to Lorraine, but they clearly meant everything to him. He stood abruptly, his chair scraping the floor. His voice carried absolute authority. "I need the floor cleared. Now. Everyone out." His eyes never left her face. Except for her. The next 5 minutes unfolded with surreal efficiency. The floor manager ushered bewildered diners toward exits with profuse apologies. Ricardo's security moved to the doors, ensuring compliance. Kitchen staff filed out through the back. The manager disappeared after receiving a nod from David. Lorraine stood paralyzed, still clutching the water pitcher, as the bustling restaurant transformed into a silent, empty stage. The lock clicked with terminal finality. She was alone with Ricardo Zebrowski in a space that suddenly felt more like an interrogation room. Ricardo gestured to the chair across from him. "Please sit down. I need to ask you about your scar. If you can't stand people who use their power to trap and terrify others, hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments. Type, 'Nobody deserves that.' Because what happened next only got worse." Lorraine remained standing, survival instinct screaming at her to run despite locked doors and armed men. "I don't know anything about it. I was told it happened when I was a baby. I don't remember." Ricardo's expression shifted through shock, grief, and inward-directed rage. "You don't remember. Of course you don't. You were only 6 months old." He looked at David, who nodded, confirming something unspoken. "What do you know about your parents?" "Foster care. No family history. No records beyond a Jane Doe hospital admission when I was an infant." The words came automatically. She'd repeated this sparse biography countless times. The scar was already there. Ricardo paced to the window, his silhouette dark against city lights. 20 years ago, there was an attack against my family. My brother Adrian and his wife Serena were killed in their home. They had a 6-month-old daughter who disappeared that night. We assumed the assassins took her to leverage against us or eliminate any heirs. Lorraine gripped the chair. "That's impossible." "The baby had a distinctive marking. They used a blade, an old-school signature kill. It carved through Serena's shoulder and caught the child across the collarbone and throat. The doctors called it the mark of the Citadel because of its distinctive angle and depth. We found blood, we found Serena's body, but the baby was gone. Adrian died 3 hours later, asking me with his last breath to find his daughter." The room tilted. Lorraine sank into the chair. "Connors, that's my last name. The hospital records listed me as baby girl Connors." Ricardo moved toward her carefully. "You're Elara Connors, Adrian's daughter. My niece. I've spent 20 years searching for you, and you've been here, in Chicago, all along." Lorraine ran the moment Ricardo's security left her at her apartment with instructions to think about everything. She threw clothes into a backpack, grabbed emergency cash, and made it 3 blocks before stopping at an all-night diner, gasping. She couldn't run from this. If Ricardo Zebrowski had found her, others could too. And unlike Ricardo, who claimed to be family, whoever had killed her parents had no reason to let her live now that she'd been identified. She ordered coffee and pulled out her phone. The search terms felt dangerous. Zebrowski family, Chicago. Adrian Serena Connors murder. Citadel attack, 2005. The results aligned with Ricardo's story in terrifying detail. The Chicago Tribune from May 2005 reported a brutal home invasion that left 2 dead in Lincoln Park. Adrian Connors, 32, described as a local businessman, and his wife Serena, 29, a former teacher. Police suspected organized crime but made no arrests. A footnote mentioned an infant unaccounted for, presumed kidnapped. Deeper searches revealed what the Tribune hadn't printed. Adrian Connors was Ricardo Zebrowski's younger brother and the family's financial strategist. The attack was professional, coordinated, designed to cripple the Zebrowski organization's infrastructure. Adrian's murder had triggered a 5-year war that reshaped Chicago's criminal landscape. She found a digitized police report with a haunting detail. An unidentified infant, approximately 6 months old, admitted to Northwestern Memorial with significant lacerations consistent with edged weapon trauma. The baby was transferred to state custody after 3 weeks when no family claimed her. That baby was her. If you believe family and truth matter more than convenient lies, hit that subscribe button. People who hide from the past won't, and you need to hear what she discovered next. Ricardo found her before dawn, not through force, but through a simple phone call. "I know you're scared. I know you need answers. I have a place where we can talk safely. David will pick you up. No pressure, no threats, just truth." The safe house was a brownstone in Evanston, elegant but understated. Inside, Ricardo sat across from her in a room that felt more like a study than a criminal headquarters. He laid out photographs, her parents on their wedding day, Adrian holding an infant with dark eyes and wisps of dark hair, Serena laughing at a family gathering. "Your father was brilliant with numbers, with strategy. He wanted to legitimize our operations, move us into legal businesses. Your mother was a teacher before she married him. She taught him that power without purpose was just violence." Ricardo's voice carried decades of grief. "The night they died, I was supposed to be there, a dinner to discuss Adrian's expansion plans. I was delayed by a meeting that, I learned later, was arranged specifically to keep me away." He showed her crime scene reports, medical examiner findings, and his own investigation files. The attack was ordered by the Calabrese family, our rivals at the time. They wanted to send a message, to break me by destroying what I loved most. They succeeded in killing Adrian and Serena, but they failed to find you. Someone, a housekeeper we think, grabbed you and ran before the assassins finished their sweep. She left you at the hospital and disappeared. I've been searching ever since.
3 days later, as Elara was beginning to process her new reality, a woman approached her outside a coffee shop 2 blocks from the safe house. DEA agent Cordero, 40-something with the tired eyes of someone who'd seen too much, flashed credentials and gestured toward an unmarked car. "Elara Connors, or should I say Elara Valente. Interesting how quickly you've adapted to your uncle's world." Cordero's voice was professional but carried an edge. "We've been watching Ricardo Zebrowski for 15 years. Money laundering, racketeering, conspiracy to commit murder. We know what he is, even if you're just discovering it. Inside the car, Cordero laid out her own evidence. Surveillance photos, wire transcripts, financial records showing the Zebrowski organization's criminal reach. Your uncle is a murderer, a very sophisticated one, but a murderer nonetheless. He's used your disappearance as a rallying cry, a justification for 20 years of violence. And now you're his perfect shield, the long-lost niece, the innocent victim. It's brilliant, really. Elara felt the walls closing in. What do you want? Cooperation. You're inside now. You can give us what we need to finally take him down. Testimony about his operations, documentation of his crimes. In exchange, witness protection, a clean start, everything you actually need to be safe. Cordero leaned forward. Or you can choose blood over justice and become complicit in everything he does from this moment forward. The mark of the Citadel can be evidence of your victimhood or proof of your family's brutality. You decide which. The choice should have been simple, but Elara thought of her parents killed for trying to legitimize the family business. She thought of how Cordero saw only criminal statistics, while Ricardo saw people he'd loved and lost. I won't testify against him. The words came out stronger than she felt. Whatever he is, whatever he's done, he kept his promise. He found me. That has to count for something. Cordero's expression hardened. Then you're choosing to be part of the problem. Don't come crying to us when his world swallows you whole. Comment, family first, if you're Team Elara. The DEA's pressure can't break real loyalty. Now, watch what happens when she finally accepts her legacy.
Ricardo's face when Elara told him about Cordero showed a mix of pride and concern. The DEA has been circling for years. Your refusal to cooperate will paint a target on your back as surely as your bloodline does. Are you certain about this? Elara looked at the photographs of her parents, still spread across the study table. I'm certain I want to know who ordered their deaths. I'm certain I want to understand what they died for. And I'm certain that turning informant against the only family I have left isn't how I honor their memory. The formal introduction to the Zebrowski inner circle happened that evening. David Alvarez assessed her with new interest, no longer seeing a waitress but a potential asset. The other lieutenants, men who'd known her father, treated her with a deference that felt both respectful and slightly unnerving. Ricardo outlined her role carefully. You have your father's analytical mind. I saw it in how you researched the family, the connections you made from limited information. I want you to learn our legitimate operations first. Real estate development, investment portfolios, the legal frameworks Adrian was building before he died. Then, when you're ready, I'll teach you how to identify the threats that still exist. The training began immediately. Mornings with accountants and lawyers. Afternoons studying the complex network of businesses that formed the Zebrowski empire's public face. Evenings with Ricardo, learning family history, understanding the decades-old conflicts that had shaped Chicago's underworld. Elara discovered she had an aptitude for pattern recognition, for seeing connections others missed. Her father's gift, Ricardo told her proudly. The scar she'd hidden for 23 years became something different in this new context. No longer a source of shame, it was proof of survival, evidence of her right to be here.
Ricardo had a jeweler craft a delicate platinum necklace that traced the scar's path, transforming the mark into deliberate decoration. He said, "The mark of the Citadel is now a symbol of resilience. Let them see it and remember what it cost to create it."
6 months after that night at the Sapphire Room, Elara Valente stood in Ricardo's private office overlooking Lake Michigan. Spread across the table was a map of Chicago's financial district, marked with properties connected to the Calabrese family, the organization that had ordered her parents' deaths. "The Calabreses have weakened significantly," David Alvarez explained. "Their leadership is fractured, political protection gone. For the first time in 20 years, they're vulnerable." Ricardo watched Elara carefully. "This isn't about revenge. Your father wanted to prove our family could build something lasting, something legitimate. The Calabreses represent the old way, violence as the only language. Taking them down legally, systematically dismantling their operations through courts and legitimate business pressure would accomplish what Adrian dreamed of." Elara studied the map with analytical precision she'd inherited from the father she'd never known. She saw patterns, weak points, legal vulnerabilities. "We can do this without becoming what they are." Dad's financial models, the legitimate businesses he was building, we use those as the foundation. We buy out their distressed properties. We outbid them for contracts. We expose their illegal operations to authorities while keeping our hands clean. Ricardo smiled, seeing his brother's vision finally coming to fruition through Adrian's daughter. "Your father would be proud. He always believed the strongest power was the kind that didn't need to advertise itself with violence." Elara touched the platinum necklace tracing her scar, the mark of the Citadel, now worn openly as a symbol of survival and legitimacy. "Then we build what he wanted to build. We turned this family into what Mom and Dad died trying to create. Something that lasts beyond fear, beyond violence. We make the Zebrowski name mean something more than crime." David nodded approvingly. "The transition will take years, but with your father's plans and your analytical skills, it's achievable. The Calabrese fall first. Then we systematically replace every dirty operation with a clean alternative." Ricardo placed a hand on Elara's shoulder, the gesture carrying 20 years of searching, grief, and now hope. "Welcome home, Elara Valente. Your parents' legacy doesn't die with them. It lives through you. And together, we'll make sure their sacrifice meant something." Elara looked out over the Chicago skyline, the city that had hidden her for 2 decades, now spread before her like a chessboard. The scar that had been her shame, her secret, her burden, was now her proof of belonging. The mark of the Citadel, the symbol of a family that survived, adapted, and would ultimately transcend its violent origins. If you watched or listened up to this point, comment the country you are watching this from. Represent your country. The waitress who had hidden in plain sight was gone. In her place stood Elara Valente, heir to the Zebrowski legacy, daughter of Adrian and Lorraine Connors, and the woman who would transform her family's empire from a criminal organization into a legitimate force that honored the vision her parents died protecting. The mark of the Citadel was no longer a scar. It was a promise, a commitment, and a legacy that would reshape Chicago's underworld forever.